Swarinishthaya Janma Labda Param Pumsam Sante Narayana Smriti Etad. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Everyone can recite the verse. Okay. Etadvan, all these. Sankhya, complete knowledge of matter and spirit. Yogavyam, knowledge of mystic power. Swadharma, particular occupational duty. Parinishtaya, by full participation. Janma, birth. Labda, gain. Para, the supreme. Pumsam, of a person. Ante, at the end. Narayana, the personality of Godhead. Smritihi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Narayana is the transcendental personality of Godhead beyond the material creation. Everything that is created, sustained, and at the end annihilated is within the compass of the Mahatattva, the material principle, and is known as the material world. The existence of Narayan, or the personality of Godhead, is not within the jurisdiction of this Mahatattva, and as such, the name, form, attributes, etc. of Narayan are beyond the jurisdiction of the material world. By the speculation of empiric philosophy, which discerns matter from spirit, or by cultivation of mystic powers, which ultimately helps the performer to reach any planet of the universe or beyond the universe, or by discharge of religious duties, one can achieve the highest perfection, provided one is able to reach the stage of Narayana Smriti, or constant remembrance of the personality of Godhead. This is possible only by the association of a pure devotee, who can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, and karmis, in terms of prescribed duties defined in the scriptures. There are many historical instances of achievement of spiritual perfection, such as that of Shakandi rishis, or the 9 celebrated yogendras, who attained perfection only after being situated in the devotional service of the Lord. None of the devotees ever deviated from the path of devotional service by taking to other methods as adopted by jnanis or yogis. Everyone is anxious to achieve the highest perfection of this particular activity, and it is indicated here that such perfection is Narayana Smriti, for which everyone must endeavor his best. In other words, life should be molded in such a manner that one is able to progressively remember the personality of Godhead in every step of life.
You want to read the translation?
Did I not read the translation? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of the life. Om Ajnanatimidam Dasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swampadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Vijayani Nirvishesha Shanyavari Paschatadeshatadine Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gauratasena Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kamta Radha Kamta Nmostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhurevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nagopa Janma Pachitim Kalpiyasta Veshas Brahmanu Saptikritam Riddhimuras Manantas. Yom Tarvahi Sanagritam Ashudam Vidum. Acharya Teta Papusas Pagatim Vinam. This verse is of extreme importance to us because it's emphasizing Janmalamda Parampumsam Ante Narayana Smritihi. What is the greatest gain one can acquire in the human form of life? Labbasa durlabha idam bahusam bhavante. Manusyam arthadam anityam apiha dira. Turnamyatet anapatet anamritti yavan nisheshaya vishayakal avatavatasya. Labbasa durlabham idam bahusam bhavante. The Bhagavatam says that to have come to the human form of life is not only durlabha, rare, but sudurlabha, extremely rare. Before I was a devotee, I had read a book about Buddhism, and they also emphasized the rarity of the human form of life. And later on, I actually heard the same example amongst the devotees, but the author at the beginning of the book mentions that the rarity of the human form of life is like a turtle swimming in the ocean. And every 100 years, that turtle happens to come to the surface. And if when it comes to the surface, there's a wooden ring floating on the waves, which is being tossed and turned by the waves. If the turtle happens to come up and its head comes through the wooden ring, that's the rarity of the human form of life. How do you calculate the chances of that? We would need someone like Jesh to get a PhD to figure it out. Point is, the human form of life is extremely rare. And it says, Bhagavatam says, Manusyam arthadam anityam apihadira. Although the human form of life is temporary, it offers one the opportunity to gain the greatest wealth. And we understand what the greatest wealth is from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prema Pramarthamana. So the greatest wealth in the human form of life is to actually attain love for Krishna. That's the greatest wealth. And the example which is given is that if you have a melting ice cube and you're walking down El Camino Rio in the middle of July, and you have that melting ice cube in your hand and you're able to sell that ice cube for $100 million, that's the fortune which one can gain by accepting Krishna consciousness in this life. Why? Ante Narayana Smriti. Because if one accepts the process of sadhana bhakti, then one is setting themselves up for success in remembering Krishna at the time of death, which is what all yoga processes are ultimately trying to direct us towards. Smartvayam satatam Vishnu vismartayo najatrishit. Smartvayo najatrishit. Smartvayam satatam Vishnu vismartayo najatrishit. Sarva vidi nasetas or etayor evakinkara. Sarva vidi nasetas, or the goal of all rules and regulations is smartvayam satatam Vishnu. To be constantly remembering Krishna and never forget him. So if one can perfect their life through taking the human form of life seriously, then the Bhagavatam says that that person is the most intelligent. Sumedhasaha. They're blessed with very high degree of intelligence. Furthermore, if one takes advantage of the human form of life during the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishna Sango Pangashta Parshadam Yagya Sankirtanir Prayir Yajantihi Sumedhasaha, then that person is considered to be the most intelligent. Why? Because iti sodashakam nam nam kalmasa, kali kalmasa nasham. Because it says that if you study all the Vedas, the Upanishads are saying, if you study all the Vedas, you won't find a process of self-realization more rewarding than the process of Nam Sankirtan. So someone who takes advantage of the human form of life, specifically when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has just appeared, that person is considered to be extremely intelligent, and their mind is completely interested in surrendering to the holy name of Krishna. Etad van sankayogam, etad nirvidyamananam, ichatam akutobayam, yoginam nripanirita harinam anukirtanam. The greatest process of self-realization is this chanting in the names of Krishna. So where do we gain the wealth of love for Krishna? Prema Pumartha Mahan. We receive that through the chanting of Krishna's names. Specifically through the chanting of Krishna's names. So the Bhagavatam is saying, through all of your study, etad vansanka yogabhyam, if through studying the way this world works, if through engaging in the various mystic practices of yoga, or by following one's duty, one comes to the point of accepting a process which allows one to ante narayana smriti, then they've achieved the greatest value in life. So how do we actually pursue this? Well, the Bhagavatam goes on in saying, it needs to be pursued immediately. So the first principle of taking shelter is there needs to be a sense of urgency. Sense of urgency because the human form of life is extremely rare. That's the first principle which we have to really inculcate into our heart, is seeing how precarious our circumstance in material life actually is. How precarious the various attachments which come along with material life are. I mean, all of you are only 18, 19, 25?
27.
27. You look 25. I mean, you guys you're all so young, but already you see there's so many demands from family, from society, from work, from teachers. Practically, you're getting crushed by the demands of material life. And all of this is just to Krishna Bhule Seji Vinahir Bahimuk, forgetfulness of Krishna. And what keeps us bounded in this material life is Bhogaishvarya Prashaktanam, this attraction to material enjoyment and material comfort. And in order for us to take the process of Krishna consciousness seriously, there needs to be a serious effort to eradicate this enjoying propensity. Bhukti mukti spriha yavat pisachi hrivartate. Tava bhakti sukhasyatra katam abhyadayovavet. The Rupa Goswami says that what prevents one from experiencing the bliss of Krishna consciousness, the joy of Krishna consciousness, as the Namashtakam says, the chanting of the holy name is Goloka Mahotsavam. It's saying that the chanting of the holy names is like a festival in Vrindavan. So what prevents us from accessing that? Bhukti mukti spriha yavat pisachi hirivartate. We have two ghosts or witches, pisachi, living in our heart, which prevent us from experiencing and accepting the joy of Krishna consciousness. And those two witches are the propensity for material enjoyment, trying to gather resources and circumstances and people in this world in order to write a script or write a narrative of who you think you are in this world. Like yesterday, Ambarish Prabhu and I, we didn't meet him, but we saw him. He was walking down the road and I tried stopping him. Maybe was it you or was it Sada from Vrindavan? I forget which one. But the guy had sunglasses on and he really thought he was cool.
Oh, was his wife or what?
No, he was on his own. I mean, I saw a few people who really thought they had it together in Palo Alto last night. And the person walked by and I tried stopping him, but I just complimented his glasses and that kind of made him happy. And then he kept walking and then it was either you or Sada from Vrindavan. I forget which one. And you guys said, that guy thinks he's the main character of this movie, of his life. That was you? Yeah. So that's Bhukti Mukti Spriha Yavat. As long as we take this position of trying to put ourselves in the center, there's no question of taking shelter of Krishna. Taking shelter of Krishna means putting Krishna in the center. That's what Ante Narayana Smriti means. Is that at the culmination of your life, Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Bhavam Tajantante Kalevaram. At the culmination of your life, you're not thinking about I and me. Why do people take birth in another body? Because they're meditating on something in relationship to their false ego. So as long as there's some contemplation of the false ego, then one is bound to take birth in the next life. There's this story of someone who was about to die, and he had two sons. One son was a devotee, one son was a materialist. And the person was on his deathbed, and this man had a lot of money. He had a lot of money. And he was he wasn't able to speak. So then they approached the doctor. They said, we need the materialistic son was saying, we need to find out what the will is. And then the other son was, we need to get him to chant the names of Krishna. And so the materialistic son hired a doctor, and the doctor said, or like an astrologer or something, he said, I can give him a medicine which can bring him to a state of consciousness where he can say something very briefly, but then after he says that, he's going to leave his body. And they said, let it be, we'll pay it. And they said, it's very expensive. He said, we'll pay it, don't worry. So then they gave him the medicine, and he started coming, and he said, the materialistic son was saying, Father, who's taking your inheritance? And then the devotee son was saying, chant the names of Krishna, chant the names of Krishna. And the father was going, God, 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 God. And then he was looking off in the distance, and he goes, go. And they turn around, and it was a cow. He was thinking of the cow. So at his final moment, he was meditating on the cow, and he left his body and took birth as a cow. So the culmination of our life, whatever happens at the time of death, whatever we meditate on the time of death, that's where we'll go. So therefore, the other principle of taking shelter is giving up this janasya mohoya mahammameti. It's fully accepting the position of Majjanmana palamidam madukaitabari madprarthaniya madanugrata esha eva tvam britya britya parichakrita britya britya brittasya brityam idamam smaralokanatha. That Majjanmana palamidam, what will be the ultimate fruit of this birth? Majjanmana palamidam madukaitabari. My dear Lord Madhukaitava, the greatest gift, the greatest treasure I can receive by taking birth, the greatest fruit is Majjambana palamidam madhukaitabari madprarthaniya mananugrata esha eva from britya parichakrita britya brittasya brityam itamam smaralokanath. To allow me to become the servant of your servant 6 times removed. And Srila Prabhupada would even say 100 times removed. But this verse is going on. It says Britya 6 times. So we can gain inspiration for this consciousness by studying the Shastra. And this is the third principle of taking shelter. Do not take shelter on the basis of sentiment. Take shelter on the basis of the faith which you've gained from studying Shastra. We have to harmonize our consciousness in such a way that we are conducting ourselves on the basis of what the Shastra says. So there's an evolution of faith which takes place in the life of a sadhaka. Generally, when we first come to Krishna consciousness, unless we've been raised in the house of a devotee, and even then, this can be there, we join the process of Krishna consciousness on the basis of Laukika Shraddha, or conventional faith. We join the process of Krishna consciousness because we want to live a peaceful, natural life, right, Balaram Gopal Prabhu?
Yeah.
You're looking for a peaceful and natural life. We're looking for good company, good friends. We're looking to have something which resonates with our cultural background. You were a student, and you're probably lonely at UCS SD, and you came to the temple trying to find some solace. So all of these things are there, and there's nothing wrong with it. It is Shraddha. It is some type of faith which invests our heart in Krishna. But as we go on practicing Krishna consciousness, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Sudrit Nishchai Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarva Karma Kritavai. We have to see that our faith is evolving to a point of pure faith, which is the qualification to actually engage in devotional service. To engage in pure devotional service, there has to be pure faith. There has to be this feeling that by serving Krishna, all my other duties are wrapped up. By depending on Krishna and having exclusive dedication and dependence upon Krishna is the ultimate goal of my life and the ultimate guiding principle of my life. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this type of faith is acquired in the association of devotees. And when this faith is acquired, it's not that faith is inactive. I was just listening to a class the other day by Srila Prabhupada, and he's speaking on this principle. He says, if I have faith in you, but then I say I don't trust you, what is the value of that? So we say we have faith in Krishna. So when we say I have faith in Krishna, but we don't trust Krishna, that's Lokika Shraddha. But when we say we have faith in Krishna and we trust Krishna, that's Shastriya Shraddha. That's Shastra which has been gained in the association of devotees. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that Shraddha, pure faith, which is followed by Sharanagati, is what qualifies us for pure devotional service. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the natural byproduct of pure faith is Sharanagati. It's expressed through surrender. So we gain this faith through the study of Shastra and through the sincere association in the assembly of devotees. And when we understand this principle, then we begin to study what is the process of surrender. Because the process of surrender is glorified by all of our acharyas. Jiva Goswami even says the verse, Sarva Dharmam Parikyaja, Mamekam Saranam Vraja, Ham Tvam Sarva Bhapebhyo. This is the first verse I learned when I went to the temple, and I think it was the first verse I memorized. Do you remember the first verse you memorized, Vijay Prabhu? Dehi Nelson? You remember? Okay. Do you remember? Sarva Dharma Parikyaja.
Tesham Satata Yuktanam.
Tesham Satata Yuktanam. Amazing. So, this verse, Jiva Goswami says, is the victory flag which devotees carry. And they celebrate this verse and they glorify this verse. So when we understand this verse, then we understand that Krishna is going to take care of us. And when we accept this and then we begin to act on it, that's surrender. And that surrender is based on pure faith. That Krishna, I'm exclusively dedicated and dependent upon you. And then we begin to study what is the process of surrender. So the process of surrender, anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjitam. Rakshasi titi vishvaso, goprit ve varanamtata. Goprit ve varanamtata is the Sarup Lakshana, Jiva Goswami says of this verse. To accept that Krishna will maintain me. Just as a child is maintained by their parents, just as a servant is maintained by the master, a wife by her husband, the devotee feels, I have Krishna and I don't need anyone else. I'm exclusively dependent upon Krishna. And whatever happens, my consciousness will always flow towards Krishna. So by accepting this principle that I'm a servant of Krishna and wholeheartedly feeling that, then one begins to accept things which are favorable, reject things which are unfavorable, feel protected by Krishna, feel natural humility, and accept everything as Krishna's arrangement. This is the process of Sharanagati. So the third principle for taking shelter is to be taking shelter in faith. Because when that shelter is taken in pure faith, the natural byproduct will be genuine surrender, which gives us access to the process of devotional service. There's no question of engaging in devotional service without surrender and faith. So the three principles which I mentioned are urgency, abandonment of the bhoga vritti, or enjoying propensity, and taking shelter in genuine faith and surrender, which is founded upon Shastra. So I'll stop there. I want to leave it open for questions. Actually, I wanted to have more time for questions. But anyways, I needed to get all the principles in. So we can have some time for questions and reflections. Yes, Prabhu.
How do we, so you mentioned that we have to develop the faith that Krishna will maintain you, but it is like hard to maintain this faith when Krishna is so like subtle in his like dealings at this stage of bhakti. Like, so how do we develop this?
Chanting Hare Krishna. Krishna spoke in this verse, Sarvadharma Parikyaja Mamekam Saranam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Pakvebhyo Moksha Yasyami Masacha. He said, surrender unto me and I will relieve you from all horrible reactions of your previous deeds. And no one was accepting it. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, he came and he gave the chanting of Hare Krishna. Anarpita chadim shira karuna apatina kalo samarpaitam unanta dvalasam. So bhakti shriyam, to give bhakti. So if we don't feel qualified for surrendering, if we don't feel that we are up to par for surrendering, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is given the process of chanting Hare Krishna. And through that process of chanting Hare Krishna, Chaito Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadvaga Agni Nirvapanam. Through the process of chanting Hare Krishna, all unwanted contaminations within our heart will be eradicated. And through the eradication of those unwanted contaminations, naturally, the position of the soul of surrendering to Krishna, having faith in Krishna exclusively, will arise through the chanting of Krishna's names. So genuine faith and genuine surrender, it arises through various sources, but Chaitanya Charitamrita specifically says, Sadhu Sange Krishna Kripa Bhaktira Swabhav. Through the mercy of associating with sadhus, through the direct mercy of Krishna himself, which is available through the chanting of his holy names, and through the very nature of devotional service, then one can come to the perfectional stage. 18 Swabhava Chadaya Kahe Krishna Bhav. That one can come to this process, this platform of love for Krishna through these three mediums of mercy which is given by Krishna. Sadhu Sangha, the process of devotional service, and Krishna's mercy itself will help us. But all of this takes place through the chanting of Krishna's names, because that is the process of surrender which has specifically been applied, given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Unfortunately, it's extremely easy. So we just need to be chanting sincerely. Chanting with attention, chanting with longing, and everything necessary will come through that chanting. Hare Krishna. Let's see if anyone else has anything to say.
Just want to share a small reflection. You were saying love possible about then you said take a man, so even Prahlad Maharaj in his very first instruction, he says, Kaumara Macharya Kragnu, Dharman Bhagavatanika, Durlabham Manusham Janma, Yattad Api Adhruvam Arthadam. His main emphasis is on, he's saying Kaumara, you should start at a young age, because you never know when Adhruvam Arthadam. It's Adhruvam, it can go away at any point in time. But Arthadam, it has meaning. It has, the human form of life has, gives you the opportunity to try your best for the highest. So you should start as soon as you're out of the womb, basically. What we say, Kaumara Macharya Kragnu, and to go along with the point you're making.
Yeah. Thank you. Nothing? Ambarish, nothing? Josh?
I want to also add a small thing. The Labdhvasu Devalabam verse, I think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would weep when he would hear this verse. When
he grew up seeing it in Bhakti Bhavan when he was a boy growing up in the home of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. It was hung on the wall, and he made a vow to preach the purport of that verse for the rest of his life.
Anybody would chant this verse, he would weep because he feels that he has received the great opportunity of a human form of life. I would never want to waste a moment of that.
Yeah, he said his whole mission was preaching the purport of that verse.
We mentioned there's like three processes of like surrender, which the first one is sadhu sangha and the last one is the mercy of Krishna. So is the mercy of Krishna, is that manifest through sadhu sangha?
These are three ways in which one becomes successful in the process of devotional service. One comes to the stage of bhava. It's Krishna sadhu sangha, Krishna kripa, bhakti rasvabhav. So these are three ways in which our faith can become purified. Krishna's mercy, the very nature of pure devotional service itself, by being in contact with the holy name, by being in contact with the Srimad Bhagavatam, being in contact with the deity, these things can give rise to pure faith. And there's stories of such things happening. But the primary way in which it takes place is through the association of sadhus, sadhu sangha. That's the primary way in which pure faith arises, is because they can, through their instructions, if accepted with a humble heart, there's two things. There's the mercy of the devotees through their shiksha, and then there's the receptivity of the jiva, which allows bhakti to manifest in the hearts of conditioned souls. So the most important thing which we should focus our mind on in terms of refining our faith is finding genuine sadhu sangha. Genuine sadhu sangha is free from any propensities for material enjoyment or material liberation. Not simply just interested in having a good time or escaping the miseries of material life, but interested in learning the process of serving Krishna and actively engaging in that process of serving Krishna. So sadhu sangha is characterized by the process of Krishna Katha. What's that verse? Hridayam yoginam no. No, what is that verse? I'm trying to remember. I'm not in the hearts of the yogis. Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridaye shiva. Tatra gayanti mad bhakta yatra gayan tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti mad bhakta. Naham tishtami vaikunte. I'm not situated in Vaikuntha. And yoginam hridaye shiva. I'm not in the heart of the yogis. Where am I? I'm wherever the glories of Krishna are being spoken among sadhus. That's actual sadhu sangha. That's the type of sadhu sangha we need to seek out. We may be in the association of those who are wearing tilak, wearing neck beads, but we can understand quality. We can understand sadhu sangha not through what our eyes see, but through what our ears hear. That determines sadhu sangha. So we need to find that association and be eager for it, and then pray, please give me the intelligence to take advantage of this association. Please give me the sincerity to actually rise to the occasion of understanding how rare it actually is. And in this way, our faith will become refined. We'll go from having a mixed conception of wanting to mix devotional service with a little bit of material enjoyment, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, to I want to be exclusively dedicated and dependent upon Krishna. And that's the purpose of taking shelter of Guru, is to actually receive that jolt of pure faith, bhakti lata beach. There's so many bijas or conceptions we can receive in this world, for so many plans and ideas and goals, but we receive the seed of pure devotional service from the spiritual master. And that seed of devotional service is watered in the association of devotees through the process of hearing and chanting.
So the bhakti can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the bhakti lata beach that comes from the spiritual master himself itself. It's not like you're not innately born with it.
So rules, regulations, and methods which are given. The spiritual master plants that conception. Nityasiddha Krishna Prema, devotional service, the potential for the devotional service is within the heart of everyone. The spiritual master manifests that potential through his instructions and example. Did you have something wrong, Gopal? No? Okay, that's fine. Anything from anyone else? No? Okay. We can stop there. Tim, we missed you this morning.
Hare Krishna, I missed all of you as well. I woke up and my bike tire was flat, so there wasn't much I could do. Well, that's just an excuse. I could have ran to the temple if I had any devotion, but I didn't. I didn't run, so I miss you guys. So,
Your bike tire was flat this morning?
yes, Prabhu.
Oh
I
man.
think I'll get it fixed
Make sure you get a new tire today, okay?
right away. Thank you for class, Devavrata. This is very nice, as usual.
Hare Krishna. Do you have any questions, Tim?
No, I enjoyed the class. I found it inspiring, and I liked how you outlined the process of devotional service. It made my morning a lot better now that I had missed Mangal Arati. So thank you for your association.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Tim, for your sincere and enthusiastic application